have gathered all of the pieces together. Do you know what this means, ladies and gentlemen? This means I have attained Super Weeb 3! Ah! Okay, that takes a lot of energy. Okay, I'm good. Just give me a few seconds. Okay, we're good. So, this video, much like the Luffy power-up video I did last week or 2 weeks ago, we're going to be talking about how all of the Straw Hats are going to get some type of power-up in Wano. See, I made that video about Luffy because it was pretty obvious what Oda was doing. You know, Luffy is doing all this back-breaking manual labor in Udon Prison with the Sea Prism cuffs on. You know, when he takes those things off, or rather, he just took them off in the last chapter, but when he gets those off, we were going to see that he's way stronger than he was for the upcoming fight against Kaido, right? Okay, so that made sense. But then you start backing up and you look at all of the Straw Hats right now. They are looking like they're going to get another power-up, either a new gadget or some new ability, and that made me really think back to Enys Lobby. Enys Lobby was sort of like the halfway mark from the first part of One Piece, not exactly, but close enough, and the Straw Hats all had some new ability to go up against the CP9. Luffy got Gear 2nd and 3rd, Zorro got his Ashura, his 9-sword style, Sanji got Diable Jumbe, we had Chopper's Monster Point revealed for the first time, Nami had her perfect climb attack, Brook wasn't around yet, he was still sipping tea on a ship, being very lonely and just cursing his own existence. Robin didn't get anything either, but then again, the whole point of Enys Lobby was to go and bring Robin back. All of the Straw Hats considered her a crewmate, but she didn't really consider herself one yet, so it was really more about Robin, and she did get some fights at the very end of Enys Lobby when she was freed. She was like slapping around Spondum, which was so freaking cathartic, but beyond that, that wasn't really focused on her fighting. It was focused on like fighting figuratively rather than literally. And then of course, Frankie was brand new at this point, so everything he did was super awesome. And then we had, of course, Usopp's brand spanking new Kabuto slingshot, which, by the way, some of you that are keen to notice might realize Usopp is not present back here. That's because I lost my slingshot. I was looking all over for my slingshot to put next to Usopp, couldn't find it, so for the purposes of this video, Usopp's abilities will be represented by this gag can of peanuts. Quite hilarious. Okay then, so let's get right to it. Now, of course, some of the Straw Hats have already revealed their new tricks and things that they're going to be having in Wano. Like, Sanji has the Germa 66 raid suit canister, you know, stealth black. He's already used that twice already in the arc, so that's obviously his new power-up. Although, I am, you know, very anxious to see how he's going to combine that suit with his Diable Jambe, because we've yet to see that. Really, when he was using it against Page 1, it was just to show its, like, initial design, because it's implied that Sanji's going to ask Frankie and Usopp to modify it for him. So the form that we see him in right now, Stealth Black, that is probably going to change by the end of the arc. Okay, sometime between now and the Fire Festival, I can most assuredly guess that Sanji is going to ask Frankie and Usopp to modify it, and they're obviously, I mean, they would be rather impressed by it, because this technology is not something you see in the rest of the world, but I'm sure Frankie, even if Usopp can't figure it out, I'm sure Frankie could at least understand, like, how it works, or at the very least, they might not be able to mess with the weaponry that much, but they might be able to at least change the design of the suit to fit more of Sanji's liking. Now, that's the question. What exactly kind of raid suit would Sanji want to wear? You know, like, I'm thinking, like, would he want it designed more? Because he's a fashionable dresser. He's like me. He wears the suits. Would he want his raid suit to just look like a regular suit? Because he already wears that. That wouldn't be that different. Or would he want, like, an apron because he's a chef? I am soba mask! Or just go along with that. You know, have it like a giant picture of, like, soba noodles on it. I don't know what it would look like, but I am interested to seeing how he would combine that raid suit with his Diable Jambe and his other abilities and things like that. He has his the boots on the raid suit that allow him to fly, but he also has skywalk. So I figured, like, if he combines those two techniques together, he might be able to like rocket himself like wicked fast through the air or go way higher. I posed this question a while ago. I think it was on my Twitter. I asked the question of, could Sanji just keep using skywalk until he reached a sky island? because you figure, like, Skywalk or Geppo, however you want to name the technique, it doesn't seem to really have any hard limit. It's just, like, dependent on the stamina of the user, and we know Sanji's got a lot of stamina. So I figured if you're a really strong dude and you know Geppo or Skywalk, couldn't you just keep kicking again and again and again and again until you reach 7,000 meters up? But before, if you weren't like, oh, well, maybe there is a limit to it, like you can't go too high because eventually the oxygen's going to start getting thin. But with the combination techniques with his Geppo and the boots now from the raid suit, he might be able to do that. If he really, really wanted to, he could rocket up into like the White Sea or even the White Sea, maybe. So I'm really interested in that. But, you know, that's the obvious one that, you know, Sanji has his raid suit. Another obvious one is Nami having Zeus now, and I've already talked about that in Nami's Rod video, but I did want to bring something up involving Zeus, and that was his connection to Big Mom, because of course Big Mom is now on Wano. How exactly is this going to go? Because we've seen her use Zeus, and we've seen Big Mom on the island losing her memories. Does that mean Zeus is going to be affected by that in any way? I don't think that's the case. Because remember, Zeus and Prometheus and Napoleon were all fragments of Big Mom's soul that she turned into homies. You know, she gave her soul to a bicorn hat, and that turned it into a, you know, talking sword bicorn hat for some reason. Whatever. So the question, though, is, are Big Mom's homies, like the ones that she created, are they affected by her and her mental status or her, like, stress level? And I don't think they are, because during Totland, when Big Mom was going all wedding Keiku crazy, Prometheus and Zeus were still able to somewhat, you know, maintain level heads and things. You know, like, Big Mom was still able to ride around on Prometheus. It wasn't like Prometheus was like, his flames were sputtering in and out because Big Mom was all crazy and he was crazy too. Napoleon was still able to retain his form as a sword and even listen to her commands and everything, so it doesn't seem to be the case. So I don't think Zeus is going to be affected by the fact that Big Mom has lost her memories, but I am interested in what's going to happen if Nami and Zeus ever run into Big Mom. Because that's just an example of that. Zeus ran off with Nami, and he seems perfectly happy with living in the Climate Act. You know, so don't think of Zeus as like a direct clone of Big Mom that is affected by everything that happens with Big Mom. Now, I am sure if Big Mom were to ever die, I'm assuming that all of her homies would also vanish as well, because her soul is no longer part of this world. I'm sure all of the devil, and of course the devil fruit power would go away, and I'm sure Zeus and Prometheus and Napoleon would all deactivate and turn like Napoleon would turn just back into a regular bicorn hat if Big Mom were to ever die. But short of that, I don't think there's anything that's really going to directly affect that. Now, what happens if Big Mom retains her memories and directly commands Zeus to return to her? That's the thing, because they managed to take Zeus and get him away from Big Mom, but we never really had a moment where Big Mom was like directly in front of Zeus and like, Zeus, come back to me immediately. We haven't gotten that yet. So I'm waiting to see how long that this power-up can last for Nami. If she ever does encounter Big Mom and she orders Zeus to come back, and Zeus would, I would assume, would have no choice, because even though he's different from the other homies, he's still linked to Big Mom, and she is still the user of the soul fruit. So I think Nami would, like, Zeus would just get sucked right out of Nami's rod and it had said right back into Big Mom. So I'm assuming that's what would happen, but I don't know. Maybe she could keep a fragment of Zeus to kind of keep and retain the power a little bit, but I'm not really sure how that's going to go. Of course, all of this hinges on the fact that, Big Mom doesn't retain her memories. I mean, I'm assuming she's going to get them back at some point. I don't think she's going to spend the rest of the series completely just like amnesiac. Maybe she might, I don't know, but I don't think Oda's going to go that route with it. I think she's going to regain her memories, and it's going to be at like the worst possible time for her to do it. It's like we're ready for the battle, and during the first volley of the battle, she's on the Straw Hat side, and then she gets conked in the head by something like a cannonball. Like, all right, I'm gonna help you guys out. The hell am I doing here? You know, it might be something like that. Who knows? But, yeah, for right now, Nami has a pretty big power-up, so we're going to see how long she can maintain that, and some new skills that she's going to have with her Climate Attack in conjunction with Zeus, okay? It's probably just going to be really large-scale thunderbolts and things, but you never know. I mean, if we're really going with the Son Wukong route with this, where Nami has an extending rod, very much like Son Wukong or Son Goku. Son Goku is obviously based off of Son Wukong. wrong. She has a cloud now, which maybe she can ride around on. I don't know. We'll see if she can ride around on Zeus the same way that Big Mom can. That would kind of like complete the references there, right? That, and if Nami ever grows like a monkey tail. And there's some really cool artwork somebody actually drew about that. That looks freaking awesome, right? So something kind of like that would be pretty cool. Alright, so moving on now, let's just talk about Broccoli Face. Okay, so here's something cool. Obviously, Zorro would benefit from being in Wano because it's a country filled with samurai and great, warriors of the past and the present and even the future. Ooh, I don't even know what that means, but you know what I mean. Like, a lot of really cool swordsmen in Wano. Alright. Now, especially since the last chapter focused on, like, okay, Shusui. We're definitely going down to Shusui. That started in the beginning of Wano, when he got Shusui taken to him by the magistrate and he had the seppuku thing and everything. But now, this Benkei, looking dude stole Shusui and took it away from Zorro. Now they're gonna fight. Okay. So, I'm thinking about this. How cool would it be if Zorro does get Shusui back, but at the same time, he meets Ryuma's descendants and they tell Zorro about some ancient sword technique that Ryuma had. Or maybe, this is a sword technique that Ryuma, he was messing around with, but he could never master. Like, they look at Zorro, they see the resemblance from Zorro to Ryuma, and they see the aura, like, coming off of Ryuma's sword, Shusui. Like, I want this green-haired man to have this sword. It's his now. We dueled, and he won it fair and square. But maybe it would be up to Zorro to, like, truly master this blade the way that Ryuma was trying to. And it doesn't even have to be the same thing. Maybe it's like Ryuma had some technique that he was famous for, and then Zorro was going to take Shusui and then modify the technique a little bit to make it more of his own, and then use that technique in the fight. I don't think, Zorro is going to get a new sword in Wano. If there was any time for him to get a new sword, it would be in Wano, but I'm just split on it right now because I like all of the swords Zorro has. We can address the Katetsu thing at some point because Luffy was carrying around the Nidai Katetsu and everything, but I don't see any reason for him to give up that blade and trade it up for the Nidai unless there was like a really good reason, unless the Katetsu the Third got shattered or something, then he picked up the Nidai Katetsu or something like that. As for the Wado Ichimonji, we really haven't addressed that all too much. It probably has its origins in Wano. It's connected to Koshiro, so maybe Koshiro at one point was in Wano, or maybe the ancestors of Koshiro were in Wano. So I'm sure the Wado Ichimonji does originate from there, as well as the Katetsu and the Shusui do, but we just haven't directly referenced anything involving that. We've met Tengu, who has the Nidai, and probably knows the location of the Shodai, the first generation Katetsu. It's probably the one in the hands of Samurai Gandhi and the Gorosei, so it's not like they can get their hands on it in Wano, but Tengu might be aware of who has it. He might be like, oh yeah, the last one is in the hands of Samurai Gandhi. He might, actually, Tengu might actually be the one to mention the name of Samurai Gandhi, because we don't know any of the names of the Gorosei. But if he knows where it is, he might know the warrior that has it, and he might name drop the first member of the Gorosei, the first time we've ever heard their name. So hold on to that. But I don't know. Either if the Katetsu the Third gets shattered and he's like, oh no, one of my swords is broken in the fire festival, the battle is looming, what am I going to do with only 2 swords? And maybe that's when, they like, oh, well, what about the Nidai Katetsu, the one that Luffy had? And they give it to Zorro, and maybe Zorro meets the Tengu, and they tell him all about the Katetsu and stuff. Like, that might think, like there's a lot of stuff going on with swords. Like, wait, so you're saying Zorro is going to learn all about the Shusui? Like, we're going to have a little mini arc focused around that, and then we're going to have a little mini arc focused around the Katetsu. Honestly, I would love that. I would love it. I mean, it's Wano. Why wouldn't you have that? Like, learn all about the swords and everything. Like, Oda kind of took a break from the whole Meito sword thing for a very long time in One Piece. It was brought up every now and then, but for the most part, it was never really addressed. Like, oh, there's a brand new sword that has this rank or whatever, okay? But then we get to Wano, and pretty early on in Wano, within the first few chapters, Oda was bringing that up. He's like, here's what sword ranks mean. So it's very clear that Oda is planning on making that an integral part of this arc. Because he left us that little note at the beginning, like, okay, yeah, this is what Meito grade means just as a refresher course, because we're getting into a lot of new weapons and blades. And that's another thing. They're not necessarily swords that have the Meito. They could be spears, they could be axes. All of those weapons that Benkei-looking dude was having on, they might all be Meito grade. It's very possible. But yeah, I would love a little mini arc, maybe a chapter or 2 focused on Zorro learning about Shusui, and then maybe another chapter or 2 focused on the Katetsu blade, Zorro talking to the Tengu dude. and learning about the history with Kitetsu and everything, and how the story with the cursed blades actually goes, and him maybe learning some new techniques along the way, him learning a new technique from Shusui, then breaking the Kitetsu the Third and picking up the Nidai and getting some new techniques with the Nidai, or like it's a cursed blade, but it's even more of a powerful curse than him. You know, like that. Like, remember that scene where Zorro at Logtown takes the Sandai, throws it up in the air, and it like misses him? Maybe there's a scene like that with Nidai, except when Zorro, like let's say Zorro takes the Nidai, goes to attack one of the enemies with it, and then he looks down and like part of his fingers or something, or his hand got cut. At the same time, he sliced the opponent just got sliced, but he as well got cut, like showing that this cursed blade is way like next level from Kitetsu, and it still really hasn't like accepted Zorro as its true master. Like, you know, Kitetsu, if you were gonna look at that, was sort of like a problem child, like maybe like a brat acting up, throwing a tantrum or whatever. But Zorro was able to rein it in. Think of the Nidai Kitetsu as like, you know, like the problem teenager, like, whatever, Dad, I'm not gonna listen to you, and they just start throwing shit and they get into like fist fights and stuff like that. Maybe that more of a kind of relationship between Zorro and the Nidai Kitetsu, where every time Zorro uses the Nidai, maybe it's more of a risk to hurting himself, and it's gonna take a little bit more skills. Like, you're gonna listen to me, you damn sword. I'm your master now. He's like, no, I'm not. I'm master whoever I want to be. I want to go back to that rubber boy. He was fun. So I don't know, but you know, if you're not gonna do anything with a new sword, at least give him like a new technique based off of Ryuma, or based off of something Ryuma was trying to perfect. Something like that with Zorro, I would be a fan of. Also, here's another idea. Zorro likes his sake, right? And he's carrying around the sake bottle wherever he at in Wano and everything. Has anyone ever played Final Fantasy X? Auron. Okay, you all know how badass Auron is. Auron is awesome, okay? I think it's like his strongest attack, where you max him out, and he creates that whirlwind with his sword, and then he takes his big glug of sake and just throws it into the whirlwind, and it just combusts into this fiery tornado of death. That would be cool, you know, like, cause Zorro, he's already got the glug of sake, he's already got a technique called Dragon Twister that releases a giant hurricane. Do something like that, Dragon Twister, and then just throws the sake. He also has a technique that lights things on fire, which he used to defeat Ryuma. You know, he used that, like, Dragon Blaze Itoryu thing. So it's like, combine the techniques together, like, use Dragon Twister and then Dragon Burn Blade, or whatever it was called, shing, and then throw the sake glug into the tornado, and just, like, on King, when they were fighting King, like, just, burning damage and whirlwinds and getting sliced up from every angle. That would be cool, but that's just my personal opinion. But okay, even if you don't think that's gonna happen, that is now you're now picturing Zorro doing that in your head, and it's awesome, isn't it? Isn't it? I know. Okay, so who's next? Let's talk about Chopper next. Okay, so Chopper. You figure Chopper, you know, he's going to probably learn some new medical skills through Wano. I figured this because Wano is an isolated nation, very much like the Torino Kingdom. Not a lot of people went to visit the Torino Kingdom, okay? Mostly because of the giant birds that attacked anybody that got near the freaking place, okay? So, you know, while on that island, he discovered all these new herbs and everything that weren't around there in the rest of the world, and he discovered how they worked, you know, medicinally and stuff. So maybe in Wano, it's a very similar way. It's an isolated nation. Maybe maybe Chopper would learn a lot more about, like, medicines and stuff, but we're not talking necessarily about that. We're talking about new techniques to use in battle. Okay, so Chopper is not much of a samurai, but you know what he is? He's a ninja. That's the kind of character like Chopper likes to play. Like, I'm a ninja, nin. So I'm looking at all of his forms in the Rumble Balls, and I'm thinking, like, you know, he doesn't really have a seriously agile form. He's got kung fu points, which is kind of agile, but it has like kind of short, stubby legs and arms used mostly for close combat fighting. And that made me think, what happened to jumping points? Remember when Chopper had jumping point? You know, I love jumping point. I thought it looked cool. And then after the time skip, he just gets rid of it. So what happens is Chopper has 7 transformations before the time skip, not talking about Monster Point, not including that because he didn't really have control over that. He had 7 transformations he could go into at any time before the time skip, and he has 7 transformations he can go into at any time after the time skip. It's the same number, it's just some have been swapped out for the others. So after the time skip, he no longer has access to arm points. Instead, I believe he swapped that out for kung fu points, which is his primary, like, offensive ability, which is much more, because arm point was good, but arm point, as you can imagine, was just his arms. You know, he's like, oh, I'm swole, boom! But with kung fu point, it's like muscles, like, kind of distributed through his whole body, so he can do arms and has also kicks and spins and all that stuff, so that makes more sense. And then Monster Point then gets added to the roster as a normal transformation. It just requires a Rumble Ball in order to go into, but he could still go into it whenever he wants for 3 minutes. So Monster Point is kind of what replaced Jumping Point, which if you're going to compare the two, I would definitely say Monster Point would be more preferable than Jumping Point. But Jumping Point was neat because it was sort of like his agile one. Like if there was going to be any form of Chopper that I would say fits the ninja description, it would be Jumping Point. Just think of Jumping Point except wearing like the ninja outfit that he's wearing right now and having like the katana on his back and things like that, or the Tonto or whatever. I guess it's more of a Tonto in Chopper's case, like a tiny little, or a Wakizashi, something like that. So I don't know if Chopper could achieve that form anymore. If it's like locked out forever, he could never go back to it. I don't understand how he would just forget to do it. Like if it's like, is Chopper like a Pokemon? Like he has a certain number of moves he can learn and he has to, do you want Chopper to learn Monster Point? Well, you're gonna have to forget one of these 7 other moves. Jumping Point, I don't use that one too much. Oh, boop! Chopper forgot Jumping Point! Chopper has learned Monster Point! Do-do-do-do. Mate, that was the Zelda, whatever, it doesn't matter. But, you know, is it something like that where he can no longer go into Jumping Point or he doesn't need to anymore? I don't know, because I would like to see that. I would like to see, like, a full-fledged, like, because his heavy point right now, that's not very ninja-y. You know, he can't really sneak around like that. I mean, I guess he could sneak around in his brain point form, but he can't fight in this. That was the whole point. He can't fight in this form, right? So, I don't know. Maybe he could figure out some way to fuse various transformations together in some way, or go back to Jumping Point, or reveal a whole new form altogether. Maybe Chopper got to the point in Wano, this is finally the point where he's like, you know what, I've studied the Rumble Balls so much, I've developed different types of Rumble Balls. Maybe he could bust out like green Rumble Balls or red Rumble Balls, and he can like combine them together and go into like different forms and shit. I don't know, like if I want to go into Jumping Point, but it has like a lot of attack power, maybe I'll take a red Rumble Ball. I don't know, I'm just trying to think of a new way for Chopper to come up with a new form, because it's been a while since we've seen a new form. Like, because we saw Monster Point before the time skip. The newest form we've seen him use is Kung Fu Point. That's just a form we've never seen before. Horn Point got a redone as well. A Horn Point does not look the same as it did pre-time skip. It looks a little different, but in terms of like a whole new form, we haven't gotten that since Kung Fu Point, so maybe Chopper can come up with something like that. So that's all I really got for him. Let's see here. Let's talk about Frankie and Usopp next. Okay, so Frankie, he's obviously, you know, training to be a craftsman at Wano. I don't think he would learn anything brand new in terms of weaponry while being in Wano, because Wano, while it does have, you know, swordsmen and samurai and all these really cool, like, sword techniques and everything, Frankie's not really into that sort of thing. Frankie is, of course, more into the high-tech side of things, right? And so all I can really say regarding Frankie is maybe not developing a new weapon for himself, but either taking some cues from Senor Pink, which he's kind of already done, because when they showed up against that fight against the Yakuza earlier on in Wano, Frankie, like, jumped off and did, like, that Frankie suplex! Kind of a similar kind of thing that, Senor Pink would have used. And Senor Pink, you know, of course, they had that, like, mutual respect for one another and everything, so I could see that at some point. Maybe Frankie busting out, like, he takes, like, Senor Pink's ultimate technique, which was Baby Buster, and he's like, Super Buster! Or Cola Buster, or, you know, just something like that, and it's a technique modeled after Senor Pink. Beyond that, I'm gonna throw out an idea that people have had for a while, and I don't know if this is a thing, but especially since the latest Vivara card came out, and we found out about the dimensions of the Sunny, how long and how tall the Sunny really is, people have thrown out the idea of, like, can we do this, like, with Iron Man's Hulkbuster armor, where Frankie gets inside the Frankie Shogun, which is, like, his base armor, and then he could go and combine with the Sunny to make a straight-up, legit-sized Megazord? Now, of course, the only problem with doing that is if the Megazord gets destroyed, the Straw Hats just lost their ship. So maybe Frankie, if he would have designed, because you know the idea probably popped into Frankie's head, like maybe I can turn the Sunny into a Megazord. You think the idea is probably coming to his freaking head. So if he's ever gonna come up with that idea, it's gonna be like a last-ditch effort. It's gonna be like, we have no other chances. I gotta do it. Combine, you know, Battle Frankie 39. So I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna go down, but I could see that happening. Either Frankie taking some cues from Senor Pink, or you know, figuring out some way to combine with the Sunny. Maybe not combine with the Sunny like the Sunny transforms, but maybe like, I don't know, just hook it up to his suit already, his Battle Frankie, and then use the Gao Cannon or something. I don't know, like that. Like kind of remember in the that episode of Teen Titans, not Teen Titans Go, the original Teen Titans, you know, the Teen Titans, when Slade and that undead army was attacking Titan's tower, and Cyborg comes out, and he's like, the cables come out of Cyborg and connect to Titan's tower, and he's like, you ain't getting in here! And these giant cannons just come out of freaking Cyborg, and just boom! And just nuke Slade, or Deathstroke, whoever you want to call it. I don't know what his freaking name is, I don't read comics, but whatever, you know, like, something like that, where maybe Frankie can merge with the Sunny and use, like, the vast cola reserves on the Sunny as, like, a main battery, and then he could power up the Frankie Shogun even more, or his own attacks even more. Maybe something along that line. Maybe not transforming the Sunny, but like merging with it in some way. Like turning it into like Sunny battle mode, or something like guns come out of the Sunny, or Sunny battle combat mode, or whatever. That would be cool. So that's Frankie. I just realized I'm getting myself really hyped up on all my headcanon-y crap, but this stuff's probably not going to happen, so don't get too excited. You're just like, holy crap, Tekking, this sounds awesome! Frankie merging with the Sunny, Zorro getting all these new sword techniques, Chopper being a freaking ninja form, you know, this sounds awesome! You know, like, okay, okay. Moving on to Usopp now. Okay, so Usopp, he does have observation hockey. He began to, like, understand the beginnings of that in Dressrosa. He didn't even really know what was going on when he initially used it against Sugar. He was just kind of like, wait, I can kind of see the auras, and he fired it off without really thinking about it a second time. Now, he's been on Wano for a few weeks, you know, and he's been there with Kinemon and Kanjuro and Raizo and everybody. They're all aware of hockey. They know how observation works, so Usopp could have easily went up to Kinemon or one of the samurai and asked them about observation, or asked them about what happened. And like, oh yeah, that was observation hockey you unlocked. And Usopp's like, really? I have observation? I have hockey? That's awesome! I'm like, so I really hope he's been working a lot more on observation, learning how to keen, you know, senses and lock on to certain things. And now maybe Usopp can, like, lock on to multiple targets, you know, like dozens, if maybe hundreds of meters away. He can, well, I mean, he's a really good sniper already, but with that, maybe, and his, like, special Kabutos and his grow-ups and everything, maybe Usopp has, like, essentially I don't want to say an indefinite range, because that's where he can't shoot somebody, like, hundreds of kilometers away or anything like that. That's ridiculous. But still, like, if Usopp, there's that mountain on Wano, like Fuji Mountain. If Usopp went to the top of Fuji Mountain, you know, with his observation and with his, like, super grow-up Kabuto, he might be able to attack, like, anybody in the surrounding area of the Flower Capital, like, just raining down death upon them. So that's all I really came up with Usopp. I really couldn't come up with anything else, like, you know, him finding a new slingshot in Wano because he has this black Kabuto, and that's something it's a living organism. It's a plant he got from the Boeing Archipelago, so I can't really see him getting anything like that. Either getting new ammo in Wano in some way, like maybe while he was a toad oil salesman, he figured out, like, the volatile nature of toad oil, and he can mix it with a bunch of other chemicals and make a special attack, a star or something he can use. But aside from that, and just more keen observation, I'm not really seeing a lot more from Usopp, but that would still be a really cool power-up for him. Okay, who's next? Let's talk about Robin. Okay, now Robin is fun. Alright, now, first off, I realized just by putting this little thing up here, you know, here's Brook's guitar, he's used that to fight, Zorro's sword, Sanji's raid suit. I realized Robin doesn't really carry weapons, does she? She really doesn't. I mean, she doesn't need them. She has her, you know, Hana no Mi, but you figure, like, she could at least carry a knife or so, like some throwing knives or something around with her. Those would be really useful. Have, like a side thing of throwing knives on her hip or something, and just make, like, 8 arms and just, you know, just keep throwing off knives or something like that. So that was just my first thought. But I started thinking about few other ways she could use her powers. Okay, so Wano is a place that is very isolated, so they're a lot more superstitious, to the point where they don't even know about devil fruits. They think it's just a type of, sorcery or ninjutsu or something, right? And these are certainly the kind of people where, and then Brooke as well, like Brooke shows up as, I'm a ghost, run away! And they immediately start running away. They're terrified. So you start thinking, like, all Robin really needs to do to freak people out and really just, like, make sure that nobody stands in her way is just use her devil fruit power in any way to, like, make a bunch of body parts on herself, and then she's good to go. Imagine if Robin used her eye flower and created a bunch of eyes all over her body and walked up to, like, a nobleman's house or something. The guards would run screaming in terror. They'd like, hello, I would like entrance to your abode, please. And there's, like, eyeballs, like, all blinking and staring at them. Ah! What the hell? It's a demon! Odie! Run away! It's like some eyeball demon! Run away! That's all she would have to do it. And just make a bunch of arms. Do you know how many deities have multiple arms? All she has to do is, like, make a bunch of arms and, like, I am your goddess. And, like, well, Robin, you are my goddess. But they'd be like, oh, crap, this is because they're not used to seeing devil fruit powers. So that would be something that she could do to, like, get her way or get in somewhere or scare some guards away or something. But beyond that, I know what you're thinking about. You're thinking of, like, a new attack. All right, well, I thought of something. I guarantee you I'm not the first person to think about this, but I thought of something. Let me get a drink really quick. You're gonna love this. Okay. So, Robin has the power to summon body parts, obviously. And after the time skip, she's gotten the ability to summon giant body parts, like giant legs to stomp on your opponents, giant arms to grab the opponent. And she can also make clones of herself, too. Clones that work like Naruto shadow clones. She can make a clone, and it could go around and do its own thing and gather information and then disappear, and the information goes back to Robin and all that crap. What if she made a giant version of herself? I'm just gonna throw it out there. I'm not even into that sort of thing. I have a friend who is into that sort of thing, like the macrophilia, like, oh, I like really big women, that kind of thing. Can you imagine? Like, it really shouldn't be that hard for her to do that. For her to just create a giant version of herself. Giant Robin, like the size of the Orochi's castle or something, and just and just, like, crush the surrounding area, and it probably wouldn't be able to move very fast, and there would be a detriment to it. For one thing is, she probably wouldn't be able to make multiple versions. She would only be able to do that, and it would probably take all the focus she had on just the giant, so she wouldn't be able to, like, do anything else, and even just the giant itself would be really straining on her. Any damage the giant incurred, it would be inflicted onto her, kind of the same thing with, like, Komamura's Bankai from Bleach. So it would be a risk, and you wouldn't use it to just take out some riffraff. You would only use it when you're going up against somebody, like, you really needed some giant power. But hey, you figure, she can make giant legs, and she can make giant arms, she can make clones of herself. Just make a giant of yourself. Even if you want to consider that, like, the awakening of the Hana Hana no Mi, like the true power unlocked, where you can create a giant version of yourself as the ultimate technique of the Hana Hana no Mi, I could see that as a natural escalation of Robin's powers that we've seen so far. Okay? Also, if your enemies are into, like, the vor fetish thing, you could just, okay, then they're taken out easy, no problem. So, yeah, I'm just throwing it out there. So, throwing knives or eyeball girl, scare people away, or make a giant version of yourself, and you're good to go there. All right, so I think we only have left is Brooke. Okay, now, kind of going on to the fact that Wano is bathed in, like, that supernatural element, where people, the ghosts and the spirits of the dead walk the graveyard at night, and, there are, like, demons and Onis and Tengus and stuff on Wano. Like, I think, there are Tengus for certain, but I'm certain we're gonna see some other, old folklore from Japan in Wano, right? And I'm sure that Tengu dude, I don't think that Tengu dude is the byproduct of a devil fruit, like a mythical Tengu zone. I'm thinking, like, a long time ago, Wano was basked in, like, demons and Onis and stuff, and they built the country, and they used humans as, like, slaves, and then over the years, maybe this was back in Orz's day, and then they eventually got wiped out. Maybe the humans fought back, or the demons disappeared in some other way, and the humans just took over Wano, but they were still afraid of the past, of the folklore. They were still terrified by the stories of these demons, and Tengu is, like, one of the last vestiges of that. So what I'm saying here is the afterlife exists in One Piece. That's already been revealed. Would it be entirely impossible for Brook to, like, maybe somehow channel spiritual powers and use them for himself? I mean, he already does that with he takes his soul and he empowers it with his blade to make that soul solid, the freezing blade. But I'm talking, like, using, like, other spirits. Like, he encounters other spirits in the graveyard. Like, he's trying to scare people in the graveyard. And he's like, oh, I scared them. And he turns to his left, and there's another ghost there of, like, a samurai that died, like, 200 years ago. And he's like, oh, an actual ghost! And he's like, it's cool, man. It's cool. You're a ghost, too. I'm like, oh, yeah, kind of. And I don't know how this would, like, Dark Souls, like, you absorb the power or something. I don't know how it would work. But he gets his power from soul energy. So either Brook learns how to play a shamisen and he unlocks the true power of a shamisen, or he somehow manages to take the spirits of dead samurai into himself and he increases his power that way. I understand that's rather ambiguous, so if you just want to go with the fact that Brook learns armament hockey and he's Black Bones Brook, that's pretty badass too. But I'm just saying, like, if there's anywhere in One Piece we would encounter, like, ooh, I'm the ghost of a samurai that died 400 years ago, that would be Wano, and that might relate to Brook in some way. Or, like, you know, or all of the dead, here's another thing, all of the dead come back, like Odin included. Let's say Odin is straight up dead. I'm thinking he might still be alive, but maybe Odin really did survive. But let's say he died, and maybe the ghosts come back, and maybe Brook can, like, commune with their dead, and they can, like, give him some powers to help the fight. I'm just throwing out ideas, you know, something with that. But, yeah, that's all the ideas I had for the Straw Hats getting some power-ups in this arc. Some of them are a little bit more believable than others. Like, I think it's believable that Zorro might learn a new technique from Shusui. I think it's believable that Sanji's gonna combine the raid suit with his Diablo Jambe. I even honestly think the giant Robin is something that could legitimately happen. But then you get to Brook and Chopper and Frankie, doing all the super mech stuff. Maybe a little bit more headcanon-y, but, Anyway, I would love to hear what you guys think the Straw Hats are going to unlock in this arc, so let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, everybody, and hold on, let me try to do it again. I think I've recovered some of my energy, so let's do this. Super Whip! Ah!